The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Come to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of BeAuSm. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.
Hello and welcome to another exhilarating episode of the BeAuSm Podcast. I am your host, Joshua Peach. Mr. Mark Resnick is in the publisher's office getting the book together, putting all of the things that need to be done that I don't know how to do. I got to tell you, I'm wearing my BeAuSm sweatshirt today. Adam, we were outside. It's cold out. There's no better time to have a Carhartt Defender, Rain Defender shirt than now. I forgot how nice it is, but it's hot in here, so I might have to take it off at some point. But that aside, this guest today is a very special human in many, many ways. I often see people that reach success or talk about success, or you see people that don't have a history with someone or many people. I happen to have history with lots of people that go back, in some cases, 40 or more years. Today's guest, I don't even know how far back we go, but it's a long time. We've weaved and bobbed and gone to all different places, worked together, did all these things. And he actually happens to be the reason why, one of the reasons why, main reasons why, BeAuSm is here today, because he was the first person to give me an opportunity before we even had our license to be a business. Mr. Mike Haynes of the Haynes Group. Welcome. Wearing a BeAuSm shirt. This is good. This is back-to-back. Dennis Teravainen came in, had a BeAuSm shirt. This is working out fantastically for the merchandise side of things. But welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I love sporting the colors.
Is this your first podcast?
It is my second or
I was going to say, podcast. A guy like you, you've probably done a lot of everything at least once, so I get it.
Yeah, usually on Zoom though.
Yeah.
It's first in person in a studio.
Yeah. And so you're the founder of Haynes Group. Longtime friend, but we're going to talk about the Haynes Group because that's a part of things. But founder of Haynes Group, established in 2001. Got a couple nice hats. Thank you very much. Fit my fat head. So we go, I mean, God, we've known each other since probably junior high school or high school.
I would say so, yeah. Back in the old soccer days.
Yeah. And then Billy Nixon at Will Work was
one of my mentors.
We could say smart enough or desperate enough to give us an opportunity to pick things up and put them down building trade show booths in Boston.
Yeah, I think he crafted the tools that we are. Yeah. I really do. I give him a lot of credit for who we are. It was my master's degree. Yeah. Tough one, but it was a master's degree.
Oh, and 100%. When we talk about all that stuff, it's like there's a chapter in the book with Billy that I talk about, and it's about how he, one of the things was he always made sure that we never said no. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times we'd run to, back then I think Home Quarters was still in business. Right. But we'd run to Home Depot or we'd run to a store, someone that would want something. It's like, we got to get it done. We got to get it done. It was one of those things where I remember having a conversation with him at one point where it was like, don't say no until you have to say no.
Oh, absolutely. I made runs to Kinko's at midnight, 2 in the morning in Boston to fix graphics I had probably broken, but
I wasn't going to get into that.
That's okay. But, it's okay. It's all part of the experience.
Yeah, no, it was always great that if there was a calamity on takedown. So for those that aren't familiar with trade shows, and these are big events. Like I can remember we talk about 3Com and Palm. Remember that when they split? Yeah. And the Palm Pilot had the 2-decker, 120-foot or by 120-foot, whatever it was, 2-story.
Absolutely, $1 million operation.
Oh, it was massive. And you'd have a team of 50 or 100 guys putting this thing together for weeks, and then it would be less time taking it down. And on occasion, there would be a calamity on the takedown, typically a loud bang. And, usually. And on the show floor, it was just like, oh, Haynes must be on the floor. And but you had the record takedown time. That's it. Nobody took a booth down faster than you.
Time is money, baby. Time is money.
But that was an interesting time in our life because we were young, we were hardworking. Mm-hmm. We were in an industry that there was no, and there probably isn't to this day, there isn't a drive to exceed or excel what you want to, like, everybody got paid the same amount of money.
Exactly.
So where is the drive or motivation to want to do more, be more, excel more?
Absolutely. I believe it came from the boss in those days.
Yeah.
You know, he drove us to be better. Never accepted poor work. You know, or not saying. You could never say no. I think you just brought that up a bit ago, but there was no saying no around him.
Yeah. And you never left the booth if you were a lead without leaving a thank you card.
Absolutely.
Handwritten thank you card.
And you handheld your client till after dinner, you know, or beyond. We made sure our clients were part of who we were.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's really one of the ways I formulated my company, was through the lessons I learned from him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say, because, you know, for us, when we were, you know, somebody asked me the other day, when was the last, like, how old were you when you, started doing that? It was like 17. It was with the original warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And he instilled so many core traits and values of what we are today. And we didn't even know it at the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things he did is he gave us an amazing opportunity to make a very good amount of money.
Certainly. At
a young age.
He never held us back. I tell people all the time, he would, like, throw you in the fire.
Yeah.
He would let you go. He would give you enough rope to hang yourself, which I probably did many times. But he also allowed you to grow in that space, in kind of the leadership space. I don't think he knew it, or we knew it at the time, but he was really growing a whole group of young leaders. I see the guys we worked with back then are now, you know, owners or equity partners in the business that he started. And it's kind of exciting to watch. Yeah,
well, it is. It's because you think about it, you know, when I think about it anyway, you know, just driving a box truck, you know, going and working for Reebok, or going and working for Adidas or Mobic. I mean, one of the greatest opportunities I had was to be Joe Namath's crowd control. Like, we had those opportunities to meet exciting people. And we never really thought about the layers of leadership that we were learning about, you know, how to work with people, how to motivate people that are making the same amount of money. Try being a booth lead and try to motivate, you know, 5, 6, 100 people to work hard, right? And to do their job and do it in a timely fashion. And, you never really knew, like, what was being done in the background of, hey, we can build this booth in 4 hours. Well, you should be able to build this booth in 4 hours, but if the freight doesn't come up in a timely fashion, if there's a you know, something going on, a strike or some craziness, it puts all that. And that was the thing that I always learned that I never saw, which was you never saw him sweat. Like, you saw him you could see him get, you know, you saw him sweat, but you never saw him sweat on the show floor. Like, when the show floor, when there's nobody there, is probably in some cases harder than when everybody's there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, you know, when I tell the story, I think I tell the story in the book about the one time, you know, he loves my dad, you know, as you know, and my dad called me. I was in Vegas for, whatever that private IBM show was. There was Lotus Fury, BU, and whatever the other one was, and I was managing freight for this event. It was at Mandalay Bay, and break was 4 to 4:15. It was like 4:17. I'm talking to my dad on my Nextel flip phone, walking across, going back to where the forklifts were at the loading docks, and there he is, Billy Nixon walking. I'm like, wow, he's walking the floor. He's like, hey, Josh. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He says, who are you talking to? I said, my dad. He's like, oh, I'll tell you, Dad. I said hi. I said, oh, yeah, okay. And I say, hey, Dad. Nixon says hi. Hey, okay. Hey. I get off the phone. My dad, he's like, hey, what time's break? I said, 4 to 4:15. He says, what time is it? It's 4:17. Just turns around and walks away.
that is such his personality.
And guess
Subtle
what?
Little hint.
Guess what? It's never late again.
Right. Yeah.
I never missed track of what time it was.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be this, you know, thumb on me. He just had to remind me, hey, what time is it? You know?
Yeah. he definitely had that, I don't know what you call it, the velvet hammer.
Yeah.
You know, he also had a hammer too. He could come at you pretty hard.
You have to.
I appreciate that style. I don't particularly operate under that style, but it got the best. Maybe he did it differently with different people, but with me, he knew how to push me. If I had a client, maybe I was 20, 21 years old, and I was afraid to make the phone call, the sales call, or the no call, or we won't work with you call, depending on what it was. He would stand there. He would just hand me his Nextel.
Yeah.
He'd dial the phone number and say, just do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Don't be afraid to do it. And, you know, when you're that young and that afraid of an adult who's in an executive position, you don't want to tell them no, yes, or maybe.
Yeah.
You just want it to go away, whatever that problem might be. And he handed me the phone and said, just do it. And I learned very quick from him how to manage people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was an interesting time, and it was wild because I had my spring water business with my father. We had that from probably 95 to 2000, and I guess we sold it in 2002. That sounds right, 2002. And you had left, like you were there, you were a fixture, right? You were one of the top guys. You were one of the top people, and I had my water in the warehouse, and then I was doing labor on the side, which was great. I think I made more money working for Will Work than I made in the water business, right? Which was cool. So, but then you just vanished. Like one day it was like, Mike's not here anymore, right? And it's like, it was like an odd silence. There was you didn't come out to the loading dock to say hi. You didn't see him or anything. And I can remember I was like, where'd Haynesy go? I'm like, oh, he's off doing his own thing. I was like, well, what's his own thing? Like he's in the construction business, I think. And then it was like a year or two later that you and I crossed paths. I think it was for Church's bachelor party.
Probably, yeah.
In Newport.
Yep.
Yeah. And we sat down and we were talking, and I'm just listening to you, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. You're making great money. You're doing good things. You don't have, you got a care in the world, but you basically, the world was your oyster. And you decided to just up and go into this business of building anything, right? Because, I mean, that's what you were doing. Like, you took a huge risk. You had to be able to figure out where your specialties were going to be. So you were going after everything.
Absolutely. Our specialty was people. And I will go back to Billy on that one. I tell people all the time, a lot of people can build walls. You can build, you can put in windows. You do all that stuff. But can you manage people? Can you keep a client happy? Can you give them top-notch service? And that's kind of a rare commodity these days. And as my brother and I started the business, he's my business partner. We're 50-50. He had come from the construction side. I came from the trade show side. But luckily on the trade show side, Billy had given me some opportunities on the retail construction side, like some displays with his teamwork business. And I knew enough to be dangerous. And at the time, I didn't know how dangerous it was. So we took a lot of risk. Kind of youthful naivety was part of the plan, I guess. But we just jumped in head first, knowing that if we took care of the people, took people that were around us, people that worked for us, the people we did business for. Oddly enough, the first thing we built was a studio just like this. I was working for Billy, and I didn't think I was going to win the bid. And I was sitting at a bar in Chicago for Will Work. And I got a phone call from the client for BTV, Bridgewater Television Studios. And he said, you just won the job to build our studio. Now, I had barely put windows in a house at that point, but please don't tell anybody. We went after it. We just threw them up on the table and had at it.
Well, you're almost a quarter century later. And can I tell the bridge story?
Sure.
So the bridge story, and I think that was what we talked about at Newport, because knowing you and knowing your background and knowing, your drive has never been lacking. Your interest in people has never been lacking. But bridge building, I never thought was one of your fortes.
Correct.
And so we're just having this just very nonchalant conversation. And I'm like, tell me a little bit about your business. What's going on? He says, oh, yeah, we just bid on a bridge project. I said, what the hell do you know about a bridge? What do you know about bridges? He said, oh, it's a bid. It's a bid response. It's construction. They need the work. Figure it out. If we get it, we'll figure it out. And that's like that. I was so in awe and blown away. But at the same time, I sat there as a business owner. I was in a new startup software company at the time, and it was just that response, and it was that just like, hey, let's get the business, and then figure out how to take care of it. Like, if we can get the business, we have the people, and we have the mindset, and we have the dedication that we will figure out how to make it all work.
Right.
And that was like the moment I was like, this cat's gonna make it, because at that point, I mean, it was you and your brother and a couple of other people. Like, I think you had Todd. You had Todd Texera and a couple other people working for you. And I was like, this guy's gonna make it. And he might be the best bridge builder this country's ever seen.
I bet you didn't want to drive over the bridge, though.
Yeah, right? No, I didn't ask where it was. I didn't ask if it got built. I just thought it was amazing. And over this past quarter century, one of your specialties is breweries and restaurants.
Correct.
I mean, you just, and hotels.
Yep.
That Smith and Walensky out in Burlington.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about beautiful. I mean, you see it from 128.
Yeah.
We
love those.
Yeah.
Love those projects. Big client of ours.
Yeah.
I'd love to take credit for what it looks like, but our team puts that all together.
Yeah.
My job is to hire and motivate, and we get a good crew.
And I think you guys do just about every brewery in Massachusetts.
We were for a while, yeah. We started out doing breweries maybe 10, 15 years ago. And if you do the big one, we did Trillium when it was first coming out of the gate. And, they were such a good brand.
Yeah.
It allowed us the opportunity to kind of get a reputation in the space. And I had a project executive who had a passion, who doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy.
Yeah.
Had a passion for beer and brewing. And you put a guy like that in that space, and, the clients can feel it.
Yeah.
They feel when your team is excited to build their projects. And it's a nice little space. It's a fun space. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, you get to go to the ribbon cuttings and
right.
taste all the different beers.
Yeah. Brewery owners are like they're like artists, though.
Yeah.
In our world, you have hospitality, you have office managers, facilities managers. You work with facilities managers all the time. They're different animal. Brewers are artists.
Yeah.
They come at you with a completely different personality, and they love what they do. And they have a vision. And when they have a vision, we can build it.
Yeah, because I can remember you did. I mean, and you talk about the variables, and then you talk about the differences. Like I've seen you do a warehouse, gutting a warehouse and then building it out. That's walls and ceiling fans and other things. I mean, there's details to it, but it's not. I can see the level of detail in some of these breweries and hotels.
Sure.
Which you were doing a historic hotel or some.
We redid it's now the Acadian Hotel in Brookline.
Yeah.
It was the old Holiday Inn, so we rebranded it to a 4-star from a Holiday Inn.
And it's gorgeous.
It's beautiful, great design. I'd love to take credit for the design, but the architects take care of that for us.
Was the hotel operational while you were doing this?
It was not. That was a gift of COVID.
Oh,
to be honest with
okay,
you, right? So we landed the contract to redo the hotel. It was supposed to be done in parts and pieces, and just about the time we were about to start it, COVID kicked in, and the hotel was vacant. No one was traveling. No one was staying in hotels. So we had the luxury in that particular case of having a wide open, empty hotel, and construction workers were an essential business during COVID. So we stayed busy building hotels. A couple of them. We did one in Newport and one in Boston during COVID. Yeah. Unfortunately, COVID was here, but it did help our hospitality space.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the best time to do the work is when nobody's around.
Right.
When you and Brian sat down and kind of wrote the blueprint of what you wanted to be when you grew up, did you envision this? Like, do you have something that you have like a record of, or do you have like something in your brain that says, I can remember this is where this is exactly where I wanted to be, or like I didn't expect this, or
I would say I always knew I wanted to be here. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I grew up my dad was an entrepreneur. He ran a convenience store with a little gas station in East Bridgewater when I was a kid, so I was brought up in that world. I used to have to ride my bike down 106 to get there. But I spent a lot of time around him. He always had the fever. He never went beyond his convenience store. He always wanted to. And I think I saw his zest for being an owner and then
being a builder, no pun intended. But
right. And then from that point on, I just I surrounded myself with some cool people. Yourself, Billy Nixon, the Dave Kings of the world. I get to see a lot of entrepreneurs in that space, and I always would tell anybody that would listen to me, like, I'm not built to work for someone. I think many people knew that from the time I was about. ADD helps with that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unmanageable.
Yes.
So.
I had Ed Rossich, who I get the Holidays for the Heroes, been on the podcast a number of times, was the CEO of a company. He has he had a great tagline when a leader would come in that would supposedly manage me. He'd just give the advice of guide Peach, don't ride Peach.
That's great advice. I might use that in tomorrow's meetings.
Just guide Peach, don't ride Peach, because it's just you'll get such performance out of him that you wouldn't expect, but you can't stay on him because he's a moving object. And
but people.
Yeah,
you sense him. I was sitting here when we just stepped into the room before we had started the podcast, and you were on a call, and it was just I was wild because I'm like, he just knows people. He knows how to talk to them. He knows how to. It's not a struggle for you to talk to someone and be genuine. And I think that's crucial for anybody to be successful. You have to be authentic, and if you're not, like you could, from the time we were kids, I always knew you were authentic.
Yeah,
he was a very authentic person.
Well, trials and tribulations definitely clouded some of that stuff up, but it took me a while to figure out that's when we were growing up, it was always said, for me, because I was an idiot and took 5 years to graduate high school and all that stuff, people would say, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case, and I dispute that, and people tell me that all the time. It's like, oh, Pete, you know everybody, and it's like, I get to know everybody, and the more important thing is you want everybody to know you. You want everybody to know who you are and what you stand. I had one of the coolest days yesterday. I had my first call in the morning, was a new client, and we were talking for about 15 or 20 minutes, and we get done, and he's like, this is the best call I've had all week, and I look forward to working with you and your team, and I trust you. Mm-hmm. And for you to establish that trust, and it was because it was referral based, someone had referred him to me, so there was already that established thing, but the 20-minute talk of sharing, he felt trust. And then in the mid-afternoon, I had a call with another person that I've known for 20 years. He's gone through 2 other companies with me doing the exact same thing. So I'm in the 3rd company of doing the exact same thing, which you can feel slighted, burnt out, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Josh, I've always trusted you. I want to continue to trust you. And there was no discussion needed about the business transaction. Mm-hmm. It was, hey, I trust you're going to do the right thing. And that's what you heard with this call was, hey, let's not worry about the contract. I'll tear it up. I'll give you your money back. I don't care, because the last thing I can have is everybody not feeling my integrity and my genuine wanting to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And that's rare, right? And I think that's, I think part of the big part of your success, and it is your people business, and that, anybody can bang nails. We know that. Anybody can sell software. Anybody can go up on stage. Well, not anybody can go up on stage. I like to say
I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, no, but but most people can do a task. Mm-hmm. It's how they do the task and how they make people feel. And in this world right now, it's just nuts. Like, as far as I still have people that, even though I have a reputation, even though everything's referral based, I still get those people that are standoffish and everything else.
Sure.
Take it easy. I'm not rocking your boat here. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to hurt you. So let's just try to do the right thing. Yeah. Let's just try to move forward and move the bar ahead. And that's got to be hard. I mean, construction businesses, it can be an ugly business, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a rough and tumble business. We talk about it like it's the military. Like, we're always marshaling people and product to a place unknown, right? Someplace that's never been touched or touched years ago. But at the end of the day, it's construction. We try to tell our team all the time, we are not saving lives. Leave that to the smartest people in the world. Let them save lives. And God bless them for doing so. Our end, we're building buildings. We're trying to keep people's budgets in line, make people happy. Give them their dream. If they're building a business, whether it's a warehouse or a brewery, that's their money, and that's their dream. And it's our job to try and execute for them. And hopefully we make friends and we have great relationships along the way. And without good relationships, it doesn't matter how good our construction is. It really doesn't. You have to have relationships with these people. And we like to say we have our first client still, and we do. And out of that, we're able to just grow the business. And we did have marketing teams for years because it was just about people. It didn't seem to me like this great problem that we were solving, because everybody, there's people everywhere. But I think my dad, being in the retail business for years and having to work with him and being all walks of life, you just learned that people are people. Yeah. And if you treat them right, some may not treat you right back, but if you just keep treating them the way you treat them and do right by them, it'll all come full circle.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the BeAuSm Podcast. If you are enjoying our episodes, please give us a 5-star rating review on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. Those ratings and reviews do make a difference in helping us get more exposure, more listeners, as well as giving people an insight and understanding as to what they could expect when they listen to our episodes. Thanks again, and you are awesome. You touched on COVID. What was that like you probably had bids that you had won, tail end of 2019, first part of 2020, where we couldn't predict, material costs going through the roof. Mm-hmm. And this, you're a big operation. Mm-hmm. You're lots of money out every year,
Sure.
and lots of money coming in. Hopefully, more money coming in than going out. Yeah, how did that work? Like, how did you navigate? Because that had to have been. We've never talked about this.
Right.
It just popped up in my head when you said
Yeah.
COVID. Like, because I built like a doomsday cellar with 2x4 shelves, right?
Right.
And like everything happened, and I go to Home Depot like 2 weeks later, and it's like 2x4s are 3 times.
Yeah, it was a slap in the face. Contractually, we were good. We have inflationary clauses in our contracts if product goes up. But what we did try to do, because we don't need the clients, they'll cancel a contract. They can exit out of a contract for any reason, right?
Yeah.
So, you don't want to hurt them. So we tried our best to do was to buy out and negotiate with the companies we were doing business with, vendors, subcontractors. We did a pretty good job. We saw some issues, inflationary issues, but there's always a way to get through that. You can change a design. You can minimize a room. You talk with the client about, let's phase this into the next phase and hope the prices come down.
Yeah.
It definitely affected us, but I actually think we used the opportunity to build better relationships.
Yeah.
It forced our team, myself, our team to have conversations that weren't comfortable, right? Whether it was through working environments or having to charge them for cleaning, every day, or hey, 2x4 is now $3 to $5 more than it was yesterday.
Right.
So yeah, I think relationship wise, it was good for us. We didn't see a huge hiccup.
Yeah. If I was a betting man, I would say one of the top things that keeps you up at night is staff. Finding, are you the anomaly to skilled labor? Having a fully staffed skilled labor field, like that's.
You are correct. I don't lose sleep over it, but I very rarely lose sleep.
Yeah.
I think it's because I'm surrounded by some really good people.
Yeah.
But staffing is the hardest thing we have, and it's not. I don't think it exists. What you hear out there is that there's nobody good, right?
Yeah.
And you can't staff up a good team, or there's no talent, or the millennials don't work.
Yeah.
I don't buy into that whole thing. I actually see some of these young kids who maybe have been locked up a little bit or pushed back in their growth, and now they're hungry.
Yeah.
They're hungry. I think what we try to do is offer training. So we're nicely granted. No pun intended. We got a grant from the state, a large grant from the state to do training for our team and the employees, and it helps attract people. But it's difficult. Trade schools have been phenomenal. With us. We reach out to all the trade schools, bring the young kids in, and if you treat them right, they stay. And I would say to you that there's an immense amount of talent coming up. I don't know if it's enough to fill the 4 million jobs or so that are going to get vacated by the boomers. But I think the country's in a pretty good spot with the young kids and the young guys coming up. So no, I don't really lose sleep, but I could use about 100 more guys if you know anybody.
No, I'm in that space, and I'm with you. And it was funny. I found myself stacking firewood this week, and so what I typically do is I'll listen to a book. And I was at our library, Oaks Ames Library, on Saturday. Oh, it's amazing. And so I went there Saturday to do a couple hours of work, and I'm staring at this, one of the cubicles, and staring at this wall of books. And the one book that stands out, it just says "Celebrate Yourself," which was cool. And I put a post about it, and then I put a post of the books that I didn't see. And one of the books was "The Death of a Salesman," and I hadn't read it in forever. As a matter of fact, when I started
7th grade reading.
Well,
right?
and when you got into sales in the 90s. That's what even the book was written and created in 1949.
Really?
Yeah, and so it was written in 1949, and in the 90s, that was still a book that you read. That was what your life was like. You were Willie. You got in your car and you drove places and you talked to people and you sold them and you shook their hand and you looked them in the eyes and you did all this stuff. And so I hadn't read the book or thought of the book since 1997, and so. The book stood out on Saturday, and I was like, you know what? Let me buy it on Audible. So I bought it, started stacking wood, and I'm listening to in the book. Audible is the play because it was turned into a play that sold out for years. And, so it's the actual play, and so I'm listening to it, and you listen to Willie talk about his son Biff, the 36-year-old that's never done anything, never accomplished anything, lazy bum, blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting here going, man, we've been stereotyping the young generation forever.
You're correct.
And and what people have to understand is the youngest generation, every single generation was the worst generation at some point in their life. And people need to get past that. I have some young professionals at Operations Hero that are lights out, phenomenal, just dedicated, hardworking. The polish, the experience, the stuff that we grow and get to, that they'll get there.
Right.
But getting up every morning, I got one kid, New Nick. I call him New Nick because he's a new guy. But New Nick on my team, he's worked with me for the last year. This kid's an animal. He got me up at 5:30 in the morning one day to go do hot yoga. I'm looking over, he's standing on his head doing all this stuff. I might pay to see
that, my friend.
Yeah, he's doing all this. Oh, it was ugly. It was ugly. Now he's in there with his shirt off. He's doing all this handstands and all this stuff. Yeah. I'm just trying to breathe.
Right.
And I'm just sweating, pouring sweat everywhere. But he goes at 5:30 in the morning, he goes, does hot yoga, goes home, has breakfast, and he puts in an honest 8 and then some every single day. And I hear my competitors and stuff complaining about, the team that they have, and the young can't find anybody good. I'm sitting there going, well, you just keep worrying about them. I'll just keep finding the good ones. And there are lots of good ones out there. And the biggest thing is surrounding yourself with them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is making sure that circle that you have is so lockstep tight and similar similar core mission, vision, and value, right?
Right.
You don't have to believe the same thing. You all don't have to do the same, say the same thing, do the same thing. I build my teams with Don Clifton's Strength Finders, which is there's 4 quadrants, 34 leaderships qualities, and I build my teams so that we're spread out across that 34, that 4, and that 34. So there's no 2 people that are perfect, that are perfectly in line with the same belief systems and leadership qualities, because then you just have a room of yes people.
Oh, you do not want yes people.
Yeah, so you don't want that. But yeah, no, I sit here and I listen to staff difficulties in one of my other businesses. I shared with you is that we take retired facility operations professionals and put them back in the workforce because they're tired, but they're not dead.
Right.
As they get back to work, right? Because we need to fill that. We need to fill that trade gap. But I mean, that's got to be tough. You win a bid, you win a project, and all of a sudden you're like, geez, I need a staff of 100 guys, and I got 42.
It is scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. We have some good relationships with other vendors, so we like to tap our subcontractors, tap some labor markets. But we prefer to have them all in house. But it all, at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to leadership. And if you have the right leaders with you and around you that surround you, you can bring anybody up and staff up any project.
Yeah.
They have to want to all go in the same direction.
Yeah.
And you have to make it comfortable for them too.
Yeah.
You have to make it a place that everybody feels safe to work in.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the job site, in the office, out in the field, or just it's all about respect.
Yeah.
So.
You matter.
You have to matter. You do. And anybody who's complaining about the young guys, I think is putting the time in.
Yeah.
We run the best program at our office, and it's pretty new. We give kudos to my team for getting it ramped up, but we bring in interns. College interns every year, and they run through 3 months at a time. They're actually just out of college. They're newbies, and they do 3 months in each part of the company.
Yeah.
And then they get to select where they want to be. And you should see the excitement these kids have. And they all find their spot in their home. And then we bring in the trade school kids and the college kids in the summer. And we may have anywhere from 8 to 20 at a time. And I can't tell you I've ever gotten a complaint about maybe someone will show up late.
Yeah.
Or went out drinking the night before, but that's the college kids, right? But
is that why you put the bar in the office so they can just?
Oh, that was for me. I'm so old now. You know what the bar has?
Yeah.
Cold brew coffee.
Oh, good. There you go. Good.
We don't even have beer in it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. That it was an attraction back in the day, and now it's a nice bookshelf.
Oh yeah. No, that was. Well, we'll get into that in a minute with my visits there, but. Yeah, well, that's been a transition that's happened too, because it was 10 years ago that having a bar in the office was cool. It's probably a big responsibility and liability, but that was like a cool thing that people could say, hey, I got a bar in my office. No, I had one time I worked out in Nantucket summers for a couple of years, and my godfather he owned a car rental and moped.
Mahoney?
Mahoney, yeah. So his dad,
I just saw he was in town. I missed him.
Oh, was he? I haven't talked to him in a little bit, but. I one of my first trips out there to work at the shop, of course, Chicken Box or someplace got a hold of me, and had too much to drink, so I show up to work late, and And I'll never forget, Rick looks at me, he's Moni's dad, my godfather, he looks at me and says, hey, gonna drink? Either drink milk or sleep here. I said, okay, good enough.
I like that.
So that goes with the office bar. If you got an office bar, you got to have an office hotel too.
You got that right. Don't be.
Yeah.
There have been people that have slept in the office.
Yeah,
I have not been one of them. But.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to be responsible. So that was my drinking the night before work advice: drink milk or stay in the office.
I love that advice. I'm gonna put that on the wall in my office.
Got a couple of nuggets of knowledge, but this podcast is I want to share with the world all the great stuff that you're doing, because you are doing some great stuff, and you're not doing it just in Massachusetts. I mean, you've got, we were talking it's funny, we don't talk often or often enough or too much, depending on what day and who's talking about it. But every time I talk to you, we'll have a conversation, and whether we're picking up lunch or you're stopping by my open door policy office at Target, and we'll say something, and it was like I said, I was going to Ohio, and you're like, where are you going to Ohio? And he said, oh, we're building a lodge, or we're doing this, and it's like it seems like you've got stuff going on all over the place, which is amazing. And so this is where you're not doing just work here in Massachusetts, you're all over the place.
Yeah, we try to spread our wings. We're largely New England. We do a lot throughout New England, Maine, due to Connecticut. We work on jobs in Florida. We have a couple car dealerships coming up down to Florida. Texas, we're bidding on a job. Ohio, we're doing, that is for a nonprofit, the Matt Light Foundation, who's we're a big advocate of the Matt Light Foundation. They work with young kids and leadership skills. You would be a great speaker at a Matt Light event.
Hook me up.
I absolutely will. They're phenomenal, and he does a really good job training. They have to go to school for him or camp with him for like 4 years, and they learn how to be leaders. Wow. And they cast them off into the world.
I'll have to check that out.
It's pretty cool. So I'd love to do an intro.
Yeah, no, please do.
He's a good friend of mine, but he has a camp case out in Ohio, and he requested that we help him build a lodge.
Yeah.
So, we can build, so we'll build it.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Yeah.
But we're in the planning stages right now.
Yeah.
They're working on drawings today. But yeah, we'll go anywhere. We'll do. We're licensed, I think, now in maybe 12 states.
Yep.
Across the country, really to service our client base.
Yep.
If our clients are in the state, we'll go with them.
Yep.
We're not actively selling. We don't actively have open door offices or brick and mortar, I should say, in those states. But we are there and available to do work for people in multiple states.
Well, it's funny because I'll be like, I'm going to Florida. You're like, yeah, we're building something there. Oh, I'm going to we're building something there. Yeah. It's really kind of cool, and it's I think. In parts of all of our lives, we look at people and we're like, man, look at everything they have, right? And you have, an envy, and you also have a jealousy, and you have a something. And then at some point, for me anyway, and I know that I had it. I know that there were. I mean, we live in a community where there's a lot of there's a significant amount of wealth, right? And I've never had it. I probably never will. I live, and that's okay. And but. I know that there were parts of my life that I was like, wow, how did they end up with all of that or that or that? And now it's like, I look at stuff and I'm like, I couldn't be more proud to just be associated.
Sure.
And to realize that these, people are just great people. It's funny. Jay Bourne, a mutual friend of ours, he's been on the podcast, the real Jason Bourne.
Right.
We get that snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, and I'm over at Fernandes, and there's racing Jason with dress shoes, looking all dressed up like he's got a Sunday best on, and he's getting salt and sand and stuff because he's got to go spread it at one of his rental units. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that's just like, you just look at people and you're just so proud to just see what they've become and what they've done and the success, but the reality that they're just people too and how they've done it. And I've just been, every time I see a project that you guys put on LinkedIn, I just smile. I'm like, man, I couldn't be happier for you.
I appreciate that, man. It's awesome. Likewise on this end, I was looking at your website today with the book. A book, man. Yeah. We push it around water pallets back in the day. Now you got a book.
Yeah, I know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Mark, who's my publisher and co-writer of the book, he's like, man, if I was your publicist, man, I would just start with, look at this, from 5 years in high school to writing a book. Who would have ever thought? And I was telling Amy some of the stories the other day, and I was like, if they had a superlative for least likely to write a book. And she's like, did you say superlative? I'm like, isn't that the word? She's like, no, superlative. Can't even do that right, So, but that would have been me. I would have been the least likely to write a book and of anything of real substance. I think there's no way up until
maybe some people, but I actually I was around you a lot.
Yeah,
and you always had the gift. You had the gift to communicate with people.
Yeah,
and what better way to do it than to publish it, right?
Yeah,
communication is not a simple thing. It's not. People think it is. It's intrinsic. It's in you, right? You ever tried to train someone to be a good communicator? It's very hard.
My mother called me the other day and she's like, do you think that, growing up listening to, motivational tapes and things and everything that we did, because I did, there was a motivational tape series of this Martian spokes and whatever, but it was always these like difficult challenges and how they dealt with them and all that stuff. And my mother would listen to Tom Hopkins or Tony Robbins or all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think that had something to do with it, because I learned about how people spoke to communicate with people to effectively get to whatever it is they wanted to get to, to some mutual. I've always felt like some of those things were self-serving goals. I want to get you to do this for me. And that's what sales is looked at. And mine's always been a mutually beneficial arrangement of sorts that we both win. But yeah, it's tough to find people that are communicative, that naturally just kind of do it. But it takes a ton of work. I was talking to someone the other day about, she had booked me to speak before even you. It was 2016, and I found a recording of it. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, what were you guys thinking, getting me to go up on stage? But that bad stage visit in 2016 and then the bad one in 2017 got me to good ones in 2024, right? So it's you build up and get better every single time you do it.
You did a phenomenal job with us. I mean,
that was 2018. I had a whole bunch of other ones, and you guys put the screws to me on that one. We'll dig right into that. I mean, I was trying to remember, and I believe what had happened was you've been one of my greatest advocates and supporters on LinkedIn, both you and your company and some of your team members. And it's funny because I'll see some of your team members on the road because you got trucks everywhere. I saw it's either your brother-in-law or Brian's brother-in-law.
Miller, yeah. That's how I got my sticker.
Yeah, I saw him. Yeah, I saw him at Honeydew.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh man, we love you. Yeah, you're great." And I was like, "Wow, geez," it made me feel like a rock star for a minute. But I think I put a post in 2018 that talked about the plan. Like, one of the things in the book is, it's living your legacy with grace, which is gratitude, resilience, action, consistency, empowerment. And those are all of the stories are not just me. It's not how great I am and how I've made a difference in the world. All this stuff. And so one of the things that I found myself not doing enough of was taking actual action. I talked about a lot of things. I talked about things I could create or build or do. And so, when I was suggested for me to do BeAuSm, it was originally the essential elements to kicking ass. I just said, all right, I'm going to go to LegalZoom. I put a post on LinkedIn, and it was like 4 minutes after. You're like, I want you to do our corporate decathlon or whatever it was that you were doing. Yeah. I was like, well, okay. And then you're like, well, what do you charge? I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't about to tell you that I didn't actually have a business yet, that I was creating it. I just filed it on LegalZoom. I didn't have contracts, agreements, or anything. I'm like, I'll just do it. And you're like, yeah, come on down. And so we set the date, we set the time, set kind of the idea of what to talk about. And you had your team upstairs, and you had the whole Olympic setup. So I was going up against a competitive, I didn't see any pugil sticks or anything that was going to break any faces on, but I saw that there was going to be a very heated competition that I was up against. And, truth be told, I mean, I was nervous as all get out. I didn't want to let you down. This was arguably, and I was glad it was a friend. I was glad it was somebody that believed in me. I was glad that all the pieces came together. But at that same intersection, I was like, man, if I screw this up, I can't keep, I'll just give up. I was that person that was like, this either works or it doesn't. And I didn't have my LLC when I walked in the door. I was definitely put a lot. You get nervous,
sure,
regardless.
Yeah.
And I left, and I felt so good. I got in my car. I was going to Colorado. I literally got in my car and left and went. I had to go to an event, and I literally get in my car and I have my iPhone goes off and it's from LegalZoom. It's like, your LLC has been approved. You have an IE, and I'm like, official business now. This is.
You should have sent me an invoice.
This is it. No, man, I was. So this is the interesting thing that that I think all speakers, all people that do what I do, you have wild imposter syndrome for a long time, because it's really hard for a period of time for you to figure out the difference until you actually have someone say, you made a difference in my life, or you saved my life, or something. You really don't understand what the value of your words is.
Really?
And so, oh yeah.
Because I mean, you impacted, my whole team still talks about it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's early on. You just don't know that
Right.
you don't know that you have that elastic effect on someone.
Mm-hmm.
So you go in and you talk, and all I'm doing is I'm just sharing life, and I'm sharing a lot of stuff that I think is just common sense, but isn't, or
Right.
common experience.
Right.
And so, it takes a while for you to be like, wow, this is worth something. Like, and I talk to people now, and, my fees are online. My keynote it starts at $10,000 for me to go on
Right.
stage and talk to a group. And, if you have 10,000 people, that's $1 a person. But if you have 100 people, it's $100 a person.
Right.
So an organization has to make a significant investment
Sure.
in their team for me to come in for an hour. Huge amount of pressure. Right. And so it's like, I'm helping someone, an up and coming speaker, and he's like, well, what do I charge? And I said, you charge what you're comfortable with, that you understand that the value of your words are equal to or greater that. And that's a hard place to come. So
I can imagine, right?
Oh yeah.
It's hard to value yourself.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the hardest things out there.
Well, it was funny because you believed in me, wanted me to come speak. All this stuff kind of happened. I got my LLC. I didn't tell anybody, and it was like 24 hours later, and Jenny Mather from JM Pet Resort reaches out to me. She's like, "Hey, we're doing a holiday event. How much do you charge, or whatever, to speak?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay, yeah, this is right." And my speaker value, what it was supposed to be $5,000. That's where my brain and everything all calculated. I'm like, well, I'll sell you 100 shirts and I'll do this. And it was like, it tallied up to, but I had to buy all this fabric of these shirts and everything. She's like, yeah, okay, great. I was like, okay, well, that was easy. And part of it was people knew me, and people knew that if I deliver something for free that's great, that they like, then they're going to know that I'm going to deliver something at a fee that's even better. The amount of work that I put into it. Right. But yeah, that was a pivotal moment. Like, it's 7 years ago, which is crazy, right? I was 42 years old and going out on a stupid idea, and like couldn't believe that it was going to happen. I'm like, what would have happened if I failed? What would have happened if I drank too much and I slept in his office and showed up, all disheveled, right?
I still would let you go on.
Yeah. No, but you always have these like what ifs, and it's one of those things where, I tell people all the time, it's not any one thing, and when somebody's made it, it just didn't happen. Like, there's so much to it that goes through. Like, maybe book 2 or 3 is going to be just the journey, because the trials and tribulations of the last 7 years, when I look back, I'm like, man, 2018. So I started in June of 2018. I went from nothing, charging nothing, trying to figure out and write a book. And the book was originally supposed to be me. The book was, the full disclosure, the first idea of the book was to talk about how awesome I am. That was like, that's BeAuSm, the essential elements to kicking ass. It was all the great things that I've accomplished through the course of my life, and overcoming some adversity, not as bad as most, but some adversity, and having resilience and all these things. And that's why I was stupid, and that's why it was delayed. But that was 2018, 2019, I'm charging for keynotes, I'm doing all these things. And then 2020 hits, and, I didn't have a multi-million-dollar business, but I had a cash flow positive business every month since I started. And all of a sudden, March 13th hits, and, I was ready to quit my W-2 job. I had 39 keynotes averaging, $5,000 to $7,000 a keynote, which is good money.
Sure is.
I'm the only guy. Right. And that's, Billy Nixon says that. I talked to him. He's like, so what are you doing? I was telling him about BeAuSm. He's like, you don't have to manage people? You don't have to have all this stuff? You don't have to have all this overhead? You don't have to have warehouses around the world? Right. You don't have to have It's like, damn you. And I was like,
just control of you, man.
Control of you, and make an honest living, and and that's what I was shooting for. That was my goal in 2020. And then COVID hit, and 39 keynotes just like that. 38 of them canceled in the first 96 hours after March 13th.
Who was the one that kept you?
It was the summer camp. I got to remember what the acronym is, but it's a summer camp at Stonehill College.
And you still spoke?
I spoke the year after.
You did. So
Yeah.
they kept you on. They
kept me on. So I charged a security deposit. So typical speakers, what they do is they charge a security deposit, and it's anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000, and that's non-refundable. That's to cover your upfront costs for your travel and everything else. So I had all these plane tickets booked. So it was probably 15, 20 grand in plane tickets covered. And I don't even know how much. It was a lot in deposits. And so when COVID hit, I was like, I'm just gonna give everybody their deposits back. And people were like, you're stupid. Like, people in the speakers circuit are like, why are you doing that? So, well, we don't know when the show is going to happen, and if I give the money back, they'll probably have me come back.
Right.
But I was out that money, and I couldn't get my money back from the plane tickets. Like, they didn't institute that whole
upside down. Yeah.
plane. I was way upside down.
Yeah.
I was way upside down. And on top of that, I had committed keynotes that were in-kind keynotes by my W-2 company, meaning they were going to cover my travel, and they were paying me a W-2. I got fired during COVID.
Yeah.
So I lost my job, and I honored every one of those. So 2021, 2022. So 2020 went to a zero revenue. Like, it went to negative in a lot of ways. 2021, 2022, I was getting those keynotes back, but I was also doing the in-kind ones. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to make this. I don't know if I'm going to make this thing work. Like, I don't know. I've made every possible mistake I could make in the last 24 months, and most of it was out of my control. Like, it wasn't due to lack of effort. It wasn't due to anything that I changed. It was due to this crazy virus, fear and uncertainty, and a huge dynamic shift in the way people did events.
Right. Do you look at it now as a mistake, or do you look at it as a learning curve?
I look at everything that I did as the right thing,
right,
which was the right thing.
Absolutely. That's why you're here today.
So would I have had less financial stress? Absolutely. Would I have had maybe some easier times in my life? 100%. Would I slept well? No, I wouldn't. And whether even though the contract says non-refundable, it was just the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Right. So sometimes a contract or agreement doesn't need to be enforced,
right, because
it's not the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And so, did it make me a better person? 100%. Did I think everything fell into place the way that it did because I did that? I don't know. Yeah. But what I do know is, I know that there's organizations that still to this day will say, hey, you didn't need to do that. And by the way, one of these $1,500 deposits that I returned, these organizations have millions of dollars. It's not like that I knew that $1,500 wasn't going to put food on anybody's table.
Right.
I just knew that it wasn't money that I wanted in my corner.
That's you. That's a guy I know.
Yeah.
That's who you are. So you got to do what's right by you.
Well, I think everybody does.
Yeah.
I think that if everybody started to do more of that and start to be more cognizant of what's going on around them and not so tunnel vision on themselves, I think that the world will be a better place.
Absolutely.
It's just one of those crazy things. And if you asked me 7 years ago, like I asked you, quarter century ago, you and your brother sit down and would you write for a roadmap? My roadmap 7 years ago was, I had a couple things. One was make a difference in one person's life every day. Just makes one person's day every day. Yep. That's it. And I know I took that from somebody, and I know that I've been saying it for probably 15 years. But if I can make one person's day every day, that's 365 people. And if just 10% of those people, 36, and it just extrapolates, it's a ripple effect of people that say, wow, you've made my day. You've made a difference in my day. You've made me happier. You've whatever. And that was one of the things that I wanted BeAuSm to be. I wanted, whether it be a sticker, whether it be a t-shirt, like you wear the t-shirt, people are like, oh, there's always somebody that's like, wow, I like that. Who thought of that? That's so creative.
100%, man. I get someone sending me a text last night because I worked at the gym. Like, what's that t-shirt you had on?
Yeah. Well, it's always great when the people can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I did a flight Tuesday. I was exhausted. Did a full day turnaround in Ohio. And 6 a.m., I get in the elevator. There's 3 women going to a bachelorette party on a Tuesday.
Right.
I'm like, you girls are going for a party. You must be going to Nashville,
right?
Because Nashville's like the only place. I don't even think Vegas has bachelorette parties popping on Tuesdays like Nashville. Nashville's crazy.
Yeah.
But they're all sitting there. They look like they just rolled out of bed, but they're going and they're ready. And I get stickers on my suitcases and on my jacket and everything else. and they're just talking amongst themselves. I'm standing there kind of just wanting to get on the plane and fall asleep. And one of the women goes, "Does that say BeAuSm?" And I said, "It does." She's like, "What do you do?" I say, "I'm a motivational speaker and a sticker giveaway guy." And I went in my bag, I pulled out a couple of stickers, and she's like, "Oh my God, these are amazing. I'll put them in my suitcase." That little action,
Right.
that little simple action of her recognizing me, making my day in a way,
Right.
and me handing her a sticker. I mean, how easy, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's not just a sticker, it's not just a logo, it's just a simple kind action of like, let me do something, let me recognize.
It's the interaction, man.
Oh yeah, well,
Just human interaction.
It's my Target experience. You were Target last week. That's how I was able to lock you down and hold you hostage. This whole thing. But I've been in Target for since March 1st. I go in there when I'm home and I do my work, and I've gotten to know everybody in Target and Starbucks, and I get to see a lot of people, and I see so much that I'm like, man, that person is like this far away from the goal line of being good.
Right.
This far. Like they just got to get out of their own way. They just got to get out of their phone. They just got to, do something. And it's like one thing that's become a pet peeve with me is kids, right? Everybody's talking about kids, and I think a big part of the problem with kids is parents. I think a big part of the kids.
I will agree 100%.
Big part of the problem with kids is exposure, what they're sadly exposed to, and go on a plane. You can watch the most horrific movies on a plane with everybody around you seeing the exact same thing that you're seeing. Just unnatural exposure that kids are seeing. And I think that one of the things that's really critical that I see, that the challenge that kids have today is so many of them are dealt with difficult cards. 1 in 12 kids has a neurodiverse difficulty, whether they're on the spectrum or they have ADD or ADHD or some other diverse ability or some other challenge that isn't quote unquote the normal kid, and they and people don't understand that, and they don't. I mean, there was a kid crying yesterday, and you could tell that the child you could tell that there was something, right?
Sure.
You could just tell, and the woman behind was just like giving the hairy eyeball to this mother, and this mother was just trying to just collect herself and get out. Nobody was like, "Can I help you? Can I give you a hand?"
That's a problem.
Yeah. Let's help one another.
I agree.
How even if you just say that, and it's like that woman was in that store by herself with that child. That's how she felt in a 50,000 square foot store, because there was no one around that could have helped. Right. And that to me is something that we need to start to fix, and we need to start changing. You see it I travel so much, I see it everywhere.
You do.
And that's hard.
Yeah, we talk about it in our office a lot with our team. We do a pay it forward scenario where if someone takes care of someone, you take a picture with them, bring it back to the office, a little good news for everybody. But I believe, just like you do, if you do one good thing, but we just say pay it forward every day. You may not ever see it come back to you. But it'll make its way to someone else every single day. Someone will do something kind if you do one thing.
Well, and if you do that, you'll feel better than the person that you give it to.
100%.
Like that's the big thing about gratitude is we don't realize that when we actually do something good for someone else, the reward isn't for what someone else gets. The reward is what we get by doing it.
Right.
And if people just started to realize that and see it and get that feeling, game over. Right. And that's what we need to strive to work towards.
Right. You just mentioned neurodivergent kids, right? And I'm an ADD guy. I was diagnosed with ADD when I was in school. But when I was in school in the early 90s, late 80s, they didn't know what ADD was. It was just a kid who was different, maybe hyper. And I really wasn't hyper. I just couldn't focus, and I couldn't do things. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized it was a gift. Oh my God! Someone handed me this gift where I can focus on a bunch of things at once, and I can move fast, and I can think about a lot of things all at one moment. It gets in your way. Don't get me wrong, but
it gets in others' way.
It does get in others' ways. You're correct. It gets in others' way. I know where I'm headed. But I wish people would. Some of these kids with some neurodivergent, whether it's ADD or autism, sometimes there's deep levels of autism, but some kids who are just living in that space a little bit, kind of look at them a little bit more and say, hey, that's a gift. What you have is a gift. And I don't know if it has to happen through the public sector or the private sector, but allow these kids to kind of foster who they are as opposed to what they are, right? And I know it. You probably do as much reading as I do on executives in the world, and a lot of the executives will tell you they were ADD, they couldn't read, or they had dyslexia, or they had some sort of some learning issue, and they become the most successful people in the world because they have to battle the struggles of that moment. And and I wish someone when I was a kid had said, that's going to work to your advantage someday.
Right.
Instead, you spend your whole youth wondering, am I different?
Yeah.
Am I different? Am I not that guy that I think I am?
Yeah.
Right. And I just wish the world would just look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Well, we're getting the hook, but I'm going to close on this because you said it. You said it perfectly, and it's one of those things with me. So I wasn't diagnosed, but it's evident, obvious, and known. Like I am wildly ADD, ADHD. Like I'm on your.
So we're on the same plane.
Yeah, we're on the same plane. That we've sat here for an hour and done this is nothing short of extraordinary, but it took work, right?
Yeah.
It took work, like shiny object, squirrel, whatever, you know. It was funny because I have people in my life, even with a company called BeAuSm, even with all the stuff that I do, even being recognized, sometimes puts a target on you.
Sure.
People want you to fail. People don't want you to succeed. People want to put you down. Over the course of the last 27 years, I've had so many people that say, "Oh, how's your ADD?" or some insult or some silly thing like that, and I took it personally, and I was upset, and I thought I was different and odd, and now it's like that's my superpower, like you say, and it's like someone's like, "Hey, you got ADD, huh?" And I'm like, "You're absolutely right, and I love it."
Yeah, jump off of the ride, man.
Yeah, well, here's the closing story. I was in a meeting in Pinellas County, Florida, 2 years ago, and my whole thing flared up. I was thinking about all sorts of things. Didn't want to be in this meeting, and I go, "Hey, who's the longest standing employee?" Now, this is the 9th largest school district in Florida, 27th largest district in the country. Who's your longest standing employee? Who's the longest standing or oldest? Oh, who's the oldest? Well, that's got to be Clyde. How old's Clyde? 92. What does Clyde do? Operates heavy equipment. One of the best relationships I've made in my life was because I trailed off and I had some other option. That's the stuff that we do, that we uncover. That's the person piece. You having this, you uncover so much. You do. Because you're looking at everything. You're trying to figure out all the different pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
So, man, this is great.
I appreciate it. Man. This was fun.
We can come back and now that I broke in, now you can do it again.
This
has been a long time coming. Sincerely, thank you for giving me that opportunity back in June of 2018. It is the reason why I'm here today. Without having one person believe in me, I didn't believe anybody would. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for making the time to be here today. Thank you for the hats. And I can't wait to see all of the great things that Haynes Group continues to grow and build and expand, and all the places I go to that you're building something somewhere that I'm going.
Right.
So I can say I know that guy. It's been great. So Adam, I'm sorry for going over. You're going to have to chop this up, or you're just going to have to go long on the studio time. But that'll do it. Book March 13th, 2025. We're going to have a pre-release of Kindle. The hard copies we're not sure of yet. We're struggling with some of that timing and everything. But stay tuned. Go to BeAuSm.com to be on the attention wait list. If you can be anything, be awesome. Thank you.
Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.